And we are live again. Yay. All right, so I'm gonna get rid of that one. I'm gonna go back to my live on here. And we are, and yeah.
Okay. How's it going?
Now started streaming less than a minute ago. All right. I think we're on. And I'm gonna
get that
out of my, yeah, it says we're live. I think we're live. We are live. We're so live.
There might be a delay, but hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Yes.
So welcome again to Design Your Life podcast with your hosts, Jacki and Amy. We are so honored that you are here and journeying with us through this fail forward fast stuff that we're doing here. I think I personally like this a lot better than having just our voices. Like I get to see Jacki's beautiful face. So I'm so glad that this is happening.
Yes.
What you got to say, Miss Jacki?
I agree. I love the video because I feel like, you can kind of see our facial expressions and like our mannerisms because that's part of who we are. Right. And the talking, just it's easier to talk to somebody when you can see them and look at them and everything. So,
and they say that 70% of your language is your body. So yes. It's a good thing that y'all are seeing our faces. So that's a good thing.
Yep.
And so there are a couple of things that we did want to go over before we started in our stress and mental health talk. One of the things that we did want to go over is that we are in no shape a doctor. We're not claiming any type of medical, like, okay, you can do this or you can do that. We're not medical people. So right. This is disclaimer that we're doing this from what we've been taught as coaches and how in our own reading and in our own life and how it's applied in our own life. So we're not giving medical advice. That's our disclaimer here.
Right. Totally on board with that disclaimer. But do not construe any of this as medical advice. Please seek your medical professionals and all of that good stuff. If you're seeing a medical professional in any way, shape, or form, they are your guides. We are just here to kind of guide you in other areas.
Right. To kind of get a little bit more technical here, I'll just go ahead and read this. The information and other content provided on this website or any link materials are not intended or should be construed as medical or mental health advice, nor is this information a substitute for professional medical or mental health expertise or treatment. There we go.
There you go.
There. I said
all there. Yep, whatever that disclaimer is.
Another thing that we wanted to go over too was last week we had mentioned in our Design Your Life podcast for the first one, our self-image and how we created that. But we also wanted to let you know that we did talk a little bit about the price of taking the masterclass. Now, each person who is a coach designs their masterclass to be a particular thing. So sometimes you can have 4-week mini course like I do, and that's $300. And other coaches have it for more or less. It's about in that range, $200 to $500 is what I've been told. So each person is different. Or even if you take the masterclass with a group of women, again, that is a different price for each of the strategists and how they present and what they do for you as coaches. So for me, in my personal one-on-one coaching, if you break it down, it is literally 4 cups of a Starbucks a week.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Like, yes. And it's over a 14 week period. Sometimes it's a 6-month period. So it depends on how long we can stretch out that dollar. But if you break it down, it's really, you can give up your Starbucks.
How much is your mental health and all of those good things worth? Yes, absolutely.
Yes. We say it's an investment. And when you hear the sticker price, it is a sticker shock sometimes, but we offer payment plans and we offer other ways. So don't let the price of this stop you from growing, from becoming the person that God wants you to become. Rather than taking a lifetime to get there, it's going to be a shorter route. And like I said last week, you need that GPS. So those are the two things that we kind of want to just throw out there. Jackie, do you have anything else to say about that?
The only thing I'll add is that, basically, I think that it's what you said, it's an investment. All the coaches are different. I think we're all kind of like within the same range. So it's not like, you're going to have to pay way more for one person and way less for another, but we're all kind of in the same range. And, I think that it's just, it's important to know for some people it is a struggle, but we do have like payment plans and things like that. So there's never a reason to not invest in your health, like your well-being, all of these things that we coach through and those types of things are just, they're so important. It's like life changing. And, so I feel like the benefit far outweighs anything else. So
absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
Coming from someone who, I don't have all the huge resources in the world either. So like, this is not me saying, oh, it's no big deal. It is, but it's an investment. And I just, I really feel like that was important for us to clarify, not, like that's the feedback we received, not so much how we feel about it.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just kind of throwing that out there, letting you know that, we're here, and then you get that accountability with it. That is the two most prominent crucial points about the Women's School, and why is it different from just reading a self-help book, is because of that accountability and because of the homework. Those are two of the most paramount, pivotal shifting designs for this masterclass, which is just absolutely incredible. So, and
the fact that you get all of the arenas, like we're not just looking at one aspect of things. We are looking at making the person whole in how how everything comes together, because one impacts the other. Like you don't have, you're not a disconnected person. You're like you're a whole person, and all of these areas impact each other. So you're getting a whole lot for the master classes. So absolutely. I mean, we're both here because we're testimonies to that and how beneficial those master classes are. So otherwise we'd be off doing something else right now.
Yes, absolutely. And my daughter has also taken the master class as well, and it has transformed her thinking and her way of her trajectory of her life. So it is a very beautiful and profoundly changing experience to really kind of dive into the art of who we are as women. So with that, we're gonna,
I'm sorry, I have to stop you there and just say, and it is incredible to see. I mean, of course we all know Sophia was fantastic, and sorry, forgive me for saying she's great. So anyway, I just wanted to say, like, okay, what am I trying to say? Just I've seen, not comparing wise, but like just I see the culture and I see everything else. And to have a woman who can stand so firm in her beliefs and be confident in that is such a beautiful thing to see. So I absolutely give kudos to your daughter on that. And sorry.
No, it's okay.
I say your daughter, but now she's famous too.
Nope. I actually had her take this right before she graduated. So I used the Women's School, because we're a homeschooling family, just to kind of plug this into any homeschooling moms out there who want to consider this. You can use this as a health and wellness, an elective for your courses as well. And
So worth
I
it.
guarantee you it will, will do something.
Yes, absolutely.
It will
It's
do
going
something.
to change something, impact something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
And
all right,
I was
that's
so
all we want
blessed.
to say about that.
Yeah.
But yes, it is a blessing.
So here we are.
Here we are on today's topic, which
Yeah.
is not that, believe it or not. All right. So today we are going to talk about our stress and mental health. Because
Yes.
yeah, there's a lot we could say about this.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely we cannot cover it all today, but we do have a lot of good meat and bones. Is that the expression? I don't know, about everything relating to this topic that we thought was really worth sharing. So we hope you enjoy it, and we are looking forward to giving you some great information.
And don't forget, you can always either comment below or send us an email with
I
questions.
think it has a chat, doesn't it?
I think we do have a chat.
I don't know how to get to it, but I know we have a chat.
That's awesome.
See, we're still learning. We are still learning, but we're just going for it,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was going to say something. Oh. All right. Yeah, we do have a chat. Oh, and if, if you feel like, hey, could you guys talk about this or talk more about that, or don't talk about that, we'll take anything into consideration, whatever blows and grows you guys have for us. We're more than happy to accept them. And yeah, that was it. So we talked about the wheel last week, and we talked about our self image, and that's what we touched upon. So this week we're talking about health and the 4 stages of health. And that's your physical, mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Today we're focusing on emotional and mental, or your stress and mental health, and how that all plays into that part. And hopefully next week we can get somebody on here for both the physical. I'd like to I'm asking somebody right now to be a guest on our podcast to talk about the physical aspect of our health. So this is where we are, and then we'll take it from there after that. So our stress and mental health. So one of the most beautiful things about this us being in that creation is, from the age of 3 to the age of about 7 years old, is that we are just absorbers of everything around us. And that means we're absorbing how our caretakers, whether it be a mom and dad, our teacher, our siblings or whatever, how they're managing stress, and how they're managing anger, and how they're managing their emotions as big people. Because when we're so little, I'm sure you've had many opportunities to remember in your childhood as like, oh, they were huge emotions for us. And as adults, we're to take our children by their hand and help them cope with those. That had been so lacking in a lot of people's upbringing, is that learning how to manage those emotions. And as little children, as we're coming out of the wombs, we're absorbing all of that. So from the time of being formed from birth to around the age of 7, that's what's going on, is that absorbing, and that going into our subconscious mind. Jackie, do you have anything to say about that?
I just want to add that the subconscious mind, I think sometimes you're aware that it's got such an impact on you, but I don't think we really think about it very much. And so the whole, I was surprised in learning that, the 5% of your brain is the short-term memory, and you'll have to remind me what the others are, like the thoughts and feelings or something, like immediate. But what you absorb in your subconscious is all of those things, like you said, from your childhood, but then also, just your everyday interactions with people and how that kind of molds, like as you're growing up, your parents, and even like kids at school, your friends, your community, the media, like how much do they have an impact on the thoughts and feelings that we have? And we've seen, probably in the last 3 years with a lot of the media and all of the things we saw on TV and how that like impacted our mental health and our emotions and things like that. And so, that's so key what you're talking about.
Yeah. And, we can go ahead and ask that question, is mind controlling my body, or is my body controlling my mind? And when you have that subconscious and that conscious effort, that subconscious is that you're eating when you're upset because you're not taking the time to be aware. So you're just eating when you're upset. You're phone checking. There's been, studies done that, the average person looks at their phone 12 times in 1 hour a day. That's, just a subconscious thing to do. When things don't go your way, your reaction to it is very quick. Being criticized. Oh my gosh, that's a difficult thing for anybody to deal with. It's our worry. It's a new situation. It's guilty, anxiety. It's traffic. I'm too tired to work. All of that is that reaction of our subconscious. And that one thing that we can do that we can do right now, even on our podcast, is being aware, is showing up now and living our life with intention and with that design in mind. So that's, key parts of how we are to live in the now, is living with that subconscious, knowing that subconscious is there. It happened to me the other day. I was yesterday. I was talking to you a little bit about it. I was in the car and I was having a Klondike bar and I was just kind of like eating it and not being aware. And oh my gosh, I realized that I was eating out of worry, frustration, overwhelm, and fear for a lot of different reasons. I was like, wow, that is so powerful for me to be aware of this. Because now I can look at the Klondike bar and going, yeah, you're not all that interesting anymore. Now I know where this is coming from. Okay. And then being in that aware state is so mind-blowing. And so what a beautiful gift to be able to do that as well. So that's what I want to say about that.
I agree, because I think that, so much of like, addictions in general, they are such I feel like a manifestation of the things that are going on inside of us, because, that Klondike bar was helping to kind of help you to focus on something else and, ignore the emotional or, the thoughts behind it. Yeah. Instead of feeling them and thinking and processing them and all of that. It is like we go to our phones are probably one of the biggest things that it's a checkout. It's a mental checkout when you just can't do it anymore. And, but when you learn to design your thoughts intentionally, it's incredible what how your body reacts, and just all of the things that are involved in it. I'm not a science geek or by any stretch of the imagination, but oh my goodness, the actual neuroscience behind all of this is it's important to know, but it's also so impactful in that way too, because you've got all these years of wiring and you've got to rewire. And that's it takes a lot of intentionality to do that. And to have, one of the benefits that I will say, having a coach is to be able to take that, and have that accountability, but also to have someone who's journeying through this with you and helping you through it. And, that's so key, because you've got to keep going. Like, that's not something you can just go, oh, for, what is it? They say 21 days makes a habit or something.
Yeah.
But
no,
like it's so much more than that. It's not that easy, I mean,
because a lot of it, you have to change your mind in order to change the results.
right.
And that's when you get into that emotional health of who we are, that mental capacity, because, you have, we have our brain, but our mind is separate from that. And we have that subconscious and that conscious mind. So that subconscious is where we learn that, this, if you can see it, this is a cup.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It was by the process of repetition that we realize that this is a cup, or it's the process of repetition that we learn the English language as opposed to somebody who's learning the Italian language. So that process is being stored, fired and wired into our brain. Well, this brain has thousands upon billions of neurons that are, boom, going all over the place, but it also has an energy. And that energy, and I'm not talking about anything that's hooky pooky, new agey crap at all. This is actual science, that there is a electromagnetic within our being, and that when we think of something, it causes a vibration within our body. Some feel it in the chest, some feel it in the stomach, some feel it in the back, shoulder, wherever. You're going to feel that vibration. For example, if you had a really difficult conversation with somebody and you were criticized, when you're ruminating on that, that conversation, what starts to happen? Your heart rate starts to go up. Your breathing starts to go up. Your muscles start to get tense. You start feeling something vibrating.
Yes. Yeah.
And it creates that electromagnetic, it's firing and wiring that conversation. It's firing and wiring that feeling. So you could have had that conversation that was really difficult to have, and you're thinking about it and you were criticized, and rather than ruminating on it, which, okay, give yourself 5 minutes. It depends on what type of conversation, maybe 10, maybe a day. Give yourself a day if it was really hurtful.
Yeah.
But give yourself a deadline. Say, all right, I'm going to think about this for 5 minutes. Think about it, cry about it, really hold it. Wow, that really hurt. But wait a minute. What can I learn from this? What can I take away from this conversation?
Yeah.
Where can I go with this?
Yeah. And I think that that's, a lot of times where all of these other things come in, like we can even, dare I say, cause like illness or depression or anxiety. Not, I'm not minimalizing any of that, but so much of our thoughts and the way that we respond to things impact our body in such a way because of that energy. And it's like, I've always said, sometimes I need a good cry, because if I'm angry about something and I don't want to like attack somebody or, go off on somebody or whatever, I need to decompress and I need to step back, but all of that energy has to go somewhere. And so, for me, it's a relief. I mean, yeah, ugly crying, it's a thing, but like but it's so important, to release that energy, because then you can take that pivotal moment and say, okay, now how am I going to handle this? Now, what am I going to do with this? And like you said, ask yourself these questions, because then you have there should always be a forward motion. It should always lead us to something better, no matter what the experience is. So
exactly, because our mind cannot differentiate between the future and the past. So when it's constantly, and that's what it's going off of. It's going off of the past experiences. So you've had and we've all had these conversations before, these difficult conversations, and we've had them to the point where, okay, they are difficult. I know what's going to happen. This is XYZ. Okay. So the results may have been that, like, ooh, it was difficult. I was hurt. But now going forward,
Mhm.
this is how I'm going to react to it.
Right.
I'm gonna create the boundaries. I'm gonna be heard. You
Yeah.
know, because of the past experiences, you can now, I want this to be my future result.
Mm.
And that future result is, I'm gonna stand up for myself. I'm gonna be fierce and tender at the same
Mm.
time.
Yes.
And so, what am I not gonna take from that last conversation, that last hurtful conversation? That wasn't justified, what they said to me.
Mhm.
Or, oh, wow, I have to sit on that one. Is that something I'm doing? Or is that, was that something I said and it came across as a misunderstanding? I mean, there's just so much that we can do rather than sit there in the self-pity and in the
Yeah.
discrimination, self
Recrimination, I think.
recrimination. Thank you.
Yeah.
all in that gunk
Uh-huh.
and really feel bad. No, we get to be proactive. We
Mm.
get to do this. We get to be with our Lord in those moments. And that's a
Mm.
beautiful thing. So,
Yes.
yeah.
And you just reminded me when you said that, because one of the things that when you were talking, I was thinking about was how beautifully designed are we that all of this stuff is going on inside of us, and that, and even when you think about that energy and how it connects us to other people, we were created for connection. And I think that that's where that energy also is, it's impactful because it's what draws us or repels us from people. And so, but we want to have that feeling of being drawn to people. We want to, how are we showing up for everybody else? Because it's important for that connection. And sometimes even those difficult conversations are necessary, but the feelings that come with them, I think that's probably where more of our fear comes from. Is, yes, it could go badly and everything like that, but I think we also are afraid to feel those feelings.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to feel those feelings, and so we want to kind of avoid them, but we all know how that goes when you avoid them, right?
Because it doesn't serve us if we do avoid them. And that current thought, that current that current thought, is it helping us or is it hindering us? Those questions that we can constantly ask ourselves while we're going throughout the day. And one of the most beautiful parts about who we are and being made in that image and likeness of God is that God spoke the word and he created the world.
Yeah.
God spoke Jesus, and that word, it is with us, right? Words are so, so powerful. And if we're speaking words that are hurtful to ourselves, if we're speaking words that are not helpful for anybody else, well, we're kind of going against that creation of God. Because he's that first person to have that word, that powerful word. He is that first person to dream. Is that, so let's co-dream with God. Let's co-dream and speak words of life that are beautiful and that are holy and good. Not only, not many times we will look at a baby and say, wow, you're pretty ugly. Boy, I just can't stand you. Or, you just wouldn't do that. But we do it to ourselves. That's how we talk to ourselves all the time. So if we're saying those negative words in us, what's going to come out of us?
Yeah.
That negativity, that's going to drive those thoughts are becoming an emotion, and that motion is going to come in action. So rather than doing that, we have to stop and ask ourselves a ton of questions. What, when, where, why, what's going on? What can I take away from this? How am I co-creating with God in this particular moment. You know, that is the art of who we are as women. You know, we are to be that light. We are to be that life bearer of goodness and of holiness. So that's all I'm going to say.
No, you're going to say a whole lot more. We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, that's more.
Well, and I think too, like, it's just, you know, like, it's so, without the skills, without the knowledge, it is difficult to get to a place because, you know, we've probably all experienced, or maybe even we've been the negative Nelly in the room. And, you know, all of that negativity, what does it do? It repels people from us. And so, you know, but then what I've always found fascinating is how much more negativity can spread. Like you know, like when I've seen this in my own life, you know, like I'll say something negative, and then it just kind of brings down the whole atmosphere of my family around me, you know, as opposed to, you know, when positivity, why is it so much harder for positivity to be spread? Like, you ever notice, like, people are afraid of positive people? Like, you are just not real. Like, you're way too positive. You know, I mean, and I've always been curious about that. Like, I don't know what the science is behind it, but there has to be some kind of science behind it, you know, that's what's it. But actually, no, I take that back. I want to say that it's just how we've been ingrained to you know, to just see the negative. And how many times do you like hear of people like when you're putting some like a perception on something, we always like, okay, not always, we have a tendency to like think the worst instead of the best about someone, you know, like, what was their intention? Was their intention good? Well, some of it can be, you know, body language, tonality, like those things that you talked about. But, you know, are we changing our mindset in that regard too? Not just for our own selves, but like how we view other people, you know, because that can bring a lot of negativity to us too.
Yep. So. Yeah. So that is like a huge thing. When you have, gosh, there's a saying, when you were saying it, it like went in my head and went, oh, there goes.
Gotta take notes.
Well, one of the things that, you know, misery loves company.
Yeah.
There it goes. Yeah. Misery loves company. And we tend to gravitate towards that because then we get to stay in our own muck, kind of.
Yeah.
It gives us that permission to not grow. I know for my own self in my younger momming years with the littles, and it's not easy. It's not the easiest, but that was constant message that I was hearing all the time, even from strangers. Oh, you know, that's a lot of kids, or, you know, how are you going to afford college? It's like, what? Like, why do you care?
Right, exactly.
You know, anyway, but there was just, I remember that being pushed up against that grind of negativity all the time, that mothering is messy and mothering is so hard. And when you don't have this, okay, wait a minute. No, mothering is requiring me to skill up. And, you know, I wish I had all of this stuff when I was younger, man. Like, I am so blessed that we have it now during our teenage years. And, you know, Jesus, God knew what he was doing. He was like, she's going to need it when they're teenagers.
Right.
Because now I look at my teenagers and when they're giving me flack, I'm like, oh, how do I need to skill up in this area? I need to respond in kindness, in truthfulness, in fierce tenderness. And it's difficult, but I get to skill up. I get to do that because that's given me the opportunity to rise above. And boy, I had one today.
What? No, never.
I wanted to sit on the little booger. But through it all, I was like, thank you, January Donovan, for challenging me to skill up, because That's what I was doing through the whole thing. I couldn't believe how calm, how just in the face of this anger, because I held somebody accountable,
Oh yeah.
little emotion guy, it was a tough thing, but we got through it and we're all alive. We talked through it. We talked through it some more. So it's a lot. It is a lot.
I have a
But,
question for you. Oops, sorry.
no,
Okay,
go ahead.
so I wanted to know, like, what do you feel has helped you to be able to do that? Because I know, like, it's hard, especially in the beginning when, like I took this class after you did. So I learned later than you did. And so I always admired and respected the way that you, would just handle things. And I know that's, some of that, maybe a lot of it, I don't know how much of it came from, your skills that you learned. So when you're in that moment, you've got to prepare in advance for those moments, don't you? Like, they don't just come naturally all the time.
I prayed up this morning. I had my coffee and prayer in Jesus. So we had that. And, that was another thing that I was really thankful for, is like, okay, I am super protective of my time in the morning. No one is allowed to talk to me. And if they do, I mean, obviously if they're sick or something, I'm not that militant. But I get very protective. My son, John Paul, actually woke up like at 6:00 in the morning, and he was up, and I just got my coffee and he started talking to me. I was like, no, this is my time. This is Jesus's time. No, go figure it out yourself. So,
or come back to me afterwards, right?
Yeah, come back to me afterwards. If nobody is dying, yeah, exactly. Nobody's dying, nobody's bleeding. I don't want to hear it. But so I'm super protective of that time, but also too, past experiences bring about future thoughts too. I knew this conversation wasn't going to go well because, we have a time that we need to get up in the morning, and 7:00 was the time. And this child didn't get up until I think 9. And I'm letting it go. Because I refuse to, because they are well capable enough to get up on their own. I'm done with it. Right. So I was able to do it throughout the whole first week of school, week and a half of school. Now we're kind of like falling back into the old patterns. And so I allowed it to happen, and there were consequences to it. And I held this kid to his consequences, and he was not happy. I knew he wasn't going to be happy. So as he was, just so angry with me, and so, he started raising his voice. I wasn't raising mine. And I say, you may not speak to me that way. That's not okay. I'm not yelling at you. You don't yell at me.
Right.
So we're going to, this is a baseline. And it was a lot of pushback. And finally I had to get super firm with my firm voice. No, conversation's done. If you want to be angry, that's fine. You can be angry, but you're not allowed to treat me horribly, and not allowed to treat your siblings horribly because you're angry. You're not allowed to fail on this math test because you're angry. Can't do any of that stuff. You're allowed to be angry, but the consequences are going to be there.
Right. Very good. Thank you for that example. Like, that's so helpful, because sometimes you hear all this great advice and everything, but it's like, okay, but I could really use some like actual examples of how do people do this, because that is probably, I'm guaranteeing that there are going to be people listening to that going, we have those same struggles, like that we have that identical struggle with the getting up on time, and the holding to the consequences and the attitude that comes from it, and there's just so much but we're learning these skills, but the blessing that we're able to bring to our family with these skills is like, for me, that was one of the biggest life-changing things, was just knowing that like my kids have a better start to their adulthood because of my skills that I'm teaching them. And it makes me want to cry tears of joy that, I mean, you
Yeah.
know, obviously I found it after Brian was a little older. So David's getting a little more of the skill training than,
Yeah.
you know, but
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, like it is so key because you have to protect that time. Like you said, the prayer time. Like I find that if I don't start my day with prayer, it doesn't go as well. It absolutely needs to happen. So
Yeah. So that prayer time, and you know, the son of mine and I, we did have that conversation afterwards, after he was calm enough to have that conversation. Okay. But mom, it was an accident. I was like, yeah, but even if you get into a car accident, you still have consequences, honey. Accidents are accidents. There's still consequences to it. So what do you need to learn to do? What's your skill?
What does this teach you? Yeah.
What does this teach you? What is the skill? What is, you know, because next time I'm going to do it again. You get up at 9 o'clock, you're losing your privileges. It's a simple thing, really. And I'm not going to, anyway. So,
well, I remember one time when, you know, my oldest was young and we were in Target and we were walking around with my mom and he was just, you know, he was pitching a fit because he wanted something and I didn't, you know, and I mean, we didn't even have the money to give it to him, but I was, you know, still not going to give him that privileged life of just buying everything he ever wanted. And, you know, it's difficult. It's hard to say no. And this was my like relaxation time because, you know, I really wanted to go hang out at Target because we needed to get out of the house. I think it was raining or whatever. And, you know, I remember that he just started throwing a tantrum and I was literally crying with him, but I picked him up, took him out of the cart, and I told my mom, we'll be in the car. And I remember like she and I had this conversation later. She was like, yeah, well, I think she might have had it in the store with me. Like, what are you doing? Just put him back. Let him, you know, and I'm like, no, he needs to learn. We need to leave this store so that he can see that I'm serious about the consequences. And, you know, and I think that that's where mom, you know, and the momming thing is hard comes from because it is hard in certain times. It is hard in certain seasons. But I did learn early on that the more you make that hard that in that moment, the less hard you have later because there's that accountability. And it's like, you know, and not that you're never going to have those moments where you have to continue in their teen years to have these conversations, but they tend to understand that challenging you is not always going to go well. You know, like it's never going to get you what you actually want. Yes, maybe sometimes you need to explode on your mother because you just have all this energy and, you know, it's not the best result, but you know, your mom's going to love you anyway kind of thing. But they still know, you're going to be held accountable. You're going to be like, I'm not giving in no matter how much you rant and rave and, you know, everything else. So it is hard in that respect, but that mind management as a mom, knowing, yes, it's hard in this moment. Yes, this season might be hard, you know, or whatever the case may be, but it's always worth it. It's always, you know, designing that intentional thought process is so worth it because you're going to feel better having that control over your emotions in the end too.
Yeah.
How many times do you regret yelling at your kid or, you know, getting emotionally like over the top with them and everything else? And then you don't have that guilt because you remain calm. You taught them how to remain calm. It's an important.
Yeah. And that's what he was seeing me in calming, but also too, I loved listening to this one TED talk the other day where this doctor came on and she was like, there's no perfect parent here. None of us are perfect. Yeah. And she goes, but in those moments where you've lost it with your kid, she goes, it's those pivotal moments where you teach your child how to say sorry. And this is like kind of a conversation for another day that I'd love to
have. We're going to write that down for another day.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I know where you're going with that.
Sorry, because it's a magic thing. But, you know, it was really important to hear that we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. And how to say sorry is an art. And then as we go through that awareness and that mind management, we have, you know, things that are big deals and small deals, and how we deal with our current circumstances. My son thought it was a big deal. And, you know, giving him the language to say, well, at least least I didn't lose my entire privilege.
Right.
I have a better chance to do something better tomorrow. Tomorrow I won't lose it.
Right.
Rather than I'm a horrible person. I can't believe I did that. Really getting down on himself. Managing the ability to absorb the energy in a room when you walk into one, when somebody is gossiping or complaining versus saying, that's interesting, and walk away and find the courage to hold them accountable. Things that we're managing our mind and doing. And you have to avoid generalization and create distinctions too with mind management. The whole thing was horrible versus the whole procedure was bad, but I'm glad the nurses were nice.
Right.
It's finding those little moments of joy. In our brain, we have what's called the amygdala, and it is the center point of looking for things. Like if you're going to look for the bad in everything, you're going to find the bad in everything.
Very
you're going to
true.
look for the good in everything. You're going to find the good in everything. It's that simple law of attraction, which some people don't really agree with because they think it's hooky, and it's not. It's simple science. You focus on something, it expands.
I mean, people take that, to the extremes and things like that. Of course, it's always going to happen, but, you can still, like, understanding science, I think, is key to understanding God, because you can't explain some of these things any other way than divine creation and divine, like just the way that God created us, and all of the ways that our brains work, and all of those neurons, and the that are running through our bodies and things like that. Like, it's so important. I mean, and if we understand that, then, you can marry the two. Like, you can keep them together. Like, you don't see it in a hokey way, because anything can be misconstrued, but focusing on that design, and also the fact that so much of what we learn is what we are created to learn. Like, we're created to be this way because we're not meant to be, mad and sad and depressed, and all of these negative emotions aren't meant to be a part of us. We're supposed to be joy filled, and we're supposed to spread that light, and but we can't do that when we're not in the right place. And I think that that's what we forget, is that it's there's so much self-care out there and everything else, and yes, a lot of it can sound very selfish, but the key to not being selfish is that your purpose is, I need to be not depleted emotionally and physically and all of the health wise, because I have to show up for the world. I have to show up for my family. I have to show up for my friends, and I've got to be that light. And it's not a burden if your health is in the right place, whether it's emotional or mind management or body management or anything else. It's crazy how everything impacts everything.
Really, absolutely, it does. And one of the things that we can leave with our listeners too, is in that mind management, we can ask like a few transformational scripts for ourselves, like my pains are opportunities for wisdom.
Yes.
My past is my teacher of resilient skills. My fear becomes my launching point, and my past is my compass for my future and my freedom. So one of the things that we teach in the Women's School is these types of scripts to go along with the season of your life. Whether it be, creating those boundaries that you need to create, whether it be, realizing, all right, boss, no, I'm sorry, you can't speak to me that way. You can't embarrass me in front of other people. You can take me aside and correct me, but you can't, embarrass me in front of people or shame me, being able say those things, and create that life of goodness for yourself, to protect, yourself, and to protect your loved ones as well, to give them those skills. And it's those scripts and those transformational scripts that we help with within the Women's School.
And what I love too is if it's not your skill set, like if you're not good, you might say like, oh, I'm not good at coming up with those, because that's what I used to say. And Amy heard me say that a lot. Yes, you are. You're good. You can do this. But having the ability to learn how to do that, like the step-by-step process of coming up with those skills and, reversing, well, what is it you want it to look like? Like that's so key to have that mind's, that awareness of what do I want it to look like? Like, what do I want my response to my boss to be when that happens? I want to be able to prepare for that, because if you're prepared for it too, then you're also, that negative energy inside of you is going to lessen in those situations. And that's key. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you gain more confidence, and that's practicing those skills. I mean, you're just not going to come up on the fly and say, blah, blah, blah,
right.
These things take time. I had a situation that happened a few months ago where somebody said some really derogatory things about my kids. And I was, my initial part was like, I was shocked.
Right.
And I was like, oh, wait a minute. No, this isn't okay. Like I didn't think on the fly. And I actually had to kind of sit with it for a little bit. And now I've practiced, like if this person comes up to me and says things that are very negative and very hurtful about my children, I'm a lot more prepared now to be able to stand up to this person and, say, no, that's not okay to do. That's,
right.
You've crossed a line, and we're not going to discuss my children like that again.
Right.
So my own script is there, and I have a lot more confidence in myself to be able to say, okay, no, that wasn't okay. Yeah, it was kind of shocking. I was like, whoa, wait a minute, where did that come from? But whatever.
Right. Well, and I think too, like on the flip side of that too is, a lot of things that I hear is, oh, well, I should be able to be honest, or you're just going to have to deal with it because I'm honest. And I think that that's where, like, okay, not your situation per se, but it reminded me of like, sometimes I do need to be self-aware. I need to realize, and that's where the question comes in, like, how do I, what can I learn from this? But I've, when I've been in that situation, if it was my fault, like if it was me that needed to change something, I think that was also important to hear. But also you can hold people accountable for the way they say things, like it's not just what you say, it's how you say it, because sometimes, it may not be a valid thing. And then you have to know how to react to that and how to address that. And it's good to take that time so that you're not just responding to them in kind and, to process it and everything else. And then also to be able to say, you know what, like, there's a better way to say that.
Yeah.
I humbly would have received that information had it been presented in a different way.
Yeah.
And see what it does. Cause like, I think I just came up with my first script.
That was
not my first one, but my first one today. Now I need to write it down and practice it. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, these are the things that, are just so critical in being able to say, you know what, I might be okay. Things might be okay. And I might not be, super depressed or anxious or anything like that. But if I have any little piece of anxiety, or I have any little piece of like, I just feel sad, or, I just feel like my friendships aren't where they want to be, my health isn't where I want to be, or, any of these wheels of your arena, like this is where we're hoping that our podcast and, if anyone joins our master classes or whatever, when people join our master classes, like this is our goal. Like we just want to help people to be able to, turn the little key in the ignition and get things fired up so that you can start driving. You could be in the driver's seat. Here's my picture this. You're turning on the car, you're pushing the gas, here you're going, So that's our goal. I think, sum it up with the podcast is just to be able to give that, our hearts are for everybody to be able to gain the knowledge we have and to come along on this journey with us. So
yes, absolutely. So our takeaways for tonight's episode would be negative thoughts, words, and beliefs produce negative energy that produces negative results. Positive thoughts, words, and beliefs invite a positive energy that produces positive results. So look for that positive, look for all things that are good, holy, and beautiful, and just keep at it. Yes. And that would be our takeaway for tonight. How about that, Jacki?
Today, tonight, whatever time zone you're in. She always says tonight, and I go, no, well, I'm tired, but is it really that late?
Yes, it's 9:30 here.
9:30. Thank you for staying up late with us, Amy. And
oh gosh.
And thank you to anyone who jumped in on our live stream. We appreciate you, even though I don't know where to look for you. I have to, that's a new skill. I need to find the live streaming chat area.
That is funny. So we have one watching now, maybe. I don't know.
Yay.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, is it me? Ooh, put a podcast song on this. We need to find a podcast song.
Yes, we need a podcast song. Anybody want to write us one?
Yeah.
Feel free.
Feel free to do it.
Yes.
Alrighty, my friend.
I am so blessed to have you as a friend, and I am so blessed that we're doing this together. It's been so much fun. Yes. Even though we're failing forward fast, it is definitely a great ride. And now we're on episode 2.
Yeah, episode 2. I know, right? Yay. We're going to grow this. Alrighty, my friend.
All right. Take care. Ciao. Ciao, ciao.